Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now enjoy a large iced coffee for just $2. Add a breakfast sandwich to make a meal. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
You should be saving for the future, but savings accounts suck, and investing can be scary. We combine the ease of savings with the real returns of investing. We call it Save Vesting, and it's only available in our new app, Stairs. Stairs offers 4 to 6% returns, no fees, and you can withdraw anytime. Do your future a favor. Visit StairsApp.com today.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
What up, Hoop Ballers, and welcome to another edition of DFS Today. I am your host, Santino Cacone. Be doing this one solo for you, and we have a Whopper, a triple Whopper Supreme with all the works of a slate for you here tonight. A 13 gamer, pretty much anyone that plays basketball is on this slate tonight. Surrounded by 2-3 game slates on Tuesday, last night and tomorrow. It's a big one. Got a lot of news to sort through. We're doing this early. We don't have all that news yet, so keep an eye on that because value in this slate is what we're looking for because pretty much everybody's in play on the top. We only have a few teams that are not playing tonight, so keep an eye on the news, see if there's any value that hits late, and we'll touch on it. Usually, these long slates tend to be a long podcast, so to knock it down, what I'm going to try and do is just tell you who I like and try and make it quick, let you know what to do because this is a whopper of a slate. But we will start out with the first game on the docket. There's 2 games tipping off at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. First one on DraftKings, we see the Washington Wizards traveling to Cleveland to take on the Cavs. We have a 215 game total, which, yes, on a slate like this, it's not the lowest. The highest on the slate that we see so far, things change obviously, is 226.5. 215, sort of in the middle of the pack. We have a couple 213s, 14s, couple 211s, 12s. 215 is right in the middle of the pack here. But the Wizards are 3-point road favorites in this one. We have on the Wizards side of the ball, Davis Bertans, Thomas Bryant, both out. And Rui is still out. He's not with the team yet. He's back with the team, just not in shape to play at the moment. On the Cavs, we have Colin Sexton, Lowry Markkanen, Kevin Love all out. And Isaac Okoro is questionable, though he is expected to return in this one. Start with the Wizards. And this, surprisingly, when you see these two teams, you're like, ooh, going to be a lot of bad defense, a lot of scoring. Surprisingly, they're both in the top 12 in defensive points against. They're both in the bottom 12 in pace, bottom 10 in pace here. This is not your standard run-of-the-mill Washington Wizards squad at the beginning of the year, and it's not your standard run-of-the-mill Cleveland Cavaliers squad, which we've come to love and respect whenever LeBron James is not there. These are two totally different squads to start the year off. It's going to be a slower game. It's going to be a more defensive-oriented game. And it's a game that I'm not particularly in love with on a 13-game slate here. But I don't mind taking a look at some of these guys. Some of those guys will be, I still looking at Caldwell Pope at 4,400. I think that's a solid value as of right now. And Denny Advia, he's playing minutes in the high 20s. There's no Bertans right now. He's playing minutes in the high 20s, and he only costs 3,300. He has no less than 19.25 fantasy points in his last 3 games and 26 minutes in his last 3 games. That's value. We're talking about a huge slate, a guy that you can plug in at 3,300. That's pretty solid value right there. As far as the upper part of the roster, there's some solid matchups here with Dinwiddie. You have Beal, obviously. I'll probably go somewhere else, but you have Dinwiddie, you have Kuzma, Hero playing pretty solid, Gafford. Probably not going to go at it with what we expect to be a slower paced game, more defensive oriented than we're used to with these two teams. So probably leave it alone with so many teams on this slate. I think Advia is my favorite. Caldwell Pope is a solid play. If I had to pick one of those a little more expensive mid-tier guys, I would go with Kuzma. I think the matchup is solid for him to take advantage of. I'll be seeing a lot of Evan Mobley, the rookie. There's no marketing as backup, and they can put him at the 3 sometimes as well. So that's where I would look, but pretty much not many guys there. On the other side of the ball, we have some things to think about. So Jared Allen at 7,500 now. He's going up and up and up and up, and it is well deserved. The front court matchup for this is where you can attack the Wizards with both Mobley and Jared Allen. I prefer Jared Allen at 500 more. I just think he's a lot safer. He's been more consistent, especially the last 4 games, just dominating rebounds on the glass there and scoring either upper teens or mid-20s. So very good there. And he's not even getting the block shots that we think. We could expect like 2 per game from him usually. So there's still room for improvement there. Jared Allen is the guy I'd prefer over Mobley, though obviously Mobley's more exciting. And then moving on to Ricky Rubio, I think he's going to be played a lot in this one. Pretty solid matchup here. 5,200. We know that Colin Sexton is out for this one, so Rubio is likely to draw the start. And he's been fantastic. He's not going to have another 37-point, 10-assist game like he did in the last one, dropped 61 fantasy points. But you should expect to see 30 to 35 minutes. You should expect to see 8+ assists. He has a penchant for steals. And he probably should get in the double-digit point range, mid-teens there. And at 5,200, that is a lot to like there. So I prefer him over Darius Garland at a $1,400 price difference. And I think Ricky Rubio is going to be highly owned here for good reason. Isaac Okoro is another guy. He's coming back. They're expecting him to play. He might draw the start. There's not going to be any Lowry Markkanen to start at small forward. So they could start both Rubio and Okoro in this one. And while I don't love the slower paced matchup, 4K again for a guy who could play 30 minutes if he's healthy enough. Really solid there. And that kind of dings the little bit of the last Jedi who's been playing pretty well. But those are the guys I'd be looking at. I think Allen, Rubio, easily the highest, and Okoro if you need a flyer. All right, jumping on to the other game at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Brooklyn Nets traveling to Orlando to take on the Magic. We have a 212 game total, and the Nets are 9-point road favorites. On the injury report, we have Nick Claxton and Kyrie Irving as out for the Nets. Markelle Fultz, Michael Carter-Williams, Etuan Moore, Jonathan Isaac, the staples on the injury report for the Magic. All right. For the Nets, we start off with the big guy. He's not even in the top 5 of priced on this slate, which is saying something at 10-9, and Kevin Durant. This is going to be a weird matchup to think about. The Magic have been playing a lot better than people expected. They keep coming in as big favorites even when they're big underdogs even when they're at home. But they've played pretty well. They just upset the Jazz. They've been doing really well there. So can you expect a blowout? Probably not. But is it likely? Possibly. They still are the Magic. So who exactly knows if they'll keep this one close? But they've been playing a lot better than normal. KD is definitely in play as usual. Probably not going to go hard, and I just rather pay the 300 more to go to KD. He's been playing a lot better to start this year. Harden's starting around a little bit more into form, but KD's just much safer to play when they're virtually the same price tag. LaMarcus Aldridge, 4,200, had himself a big game in the last one. Wouldn't mind going back to that. he's not playing a ton of minutes, but he's been hit or miss on production when he is playing. So that is something to take into account on tournament games. He put up 33 in the last one, nearly 34. The game before that, 0 for 3 shooting in 18 minutes. The game before that, 6 of 9 shooting, and then 4 of 8, 7 of 8, 10 of 16. So he's kind of hit or miss. And in tournaments, 4,200, we can take that, especially with an exploitable front court here against the Mavs or Magic. And that's probably it. I think they're like Bruce Brown, Patty Mills, you can take shots at them. Maybe Blake Griffin, you can take shots at them. But in a big slate like this, I'll probably play it a little bit safer on this side of the ball, just in case it is a blowout and those veterans aren't playing. Bruce Brown would play, but the other guys wouldn't get a ton of run there, which would hurt you in tournaments. On the other side of the ball, the Magic, again, they've been playing much better than we would have expected. Already have a few wins under their belt, and Cole Anthony is one of the most improved players on the year so far. At 7,700, it's a price tag that's it's a little bit higher than I want to take there. Can he beat it? Yeah, he just did last game. But do I want to pay 7-7 for it? Even in a good matchup, I'm going to shy a bit away from that. Mo Bamba is now the highest priced guy on this team. He's dropping down a little bit in the minutes sometimes. Last game he only played 23 in a 7-point win. He hit under 30 2 games before that. So he's dropping down to earth than the big Bamba that we saw before, even though his blocks and his rebounds and stuff are staying fairly consistent. I'm probably going to lean away from him. Wendell Carter Jr. been playing a lot better, but probably going to lean away from him as well. Think you can go there, but I'm not 100% comfortable. Jalen Suggs and Chuma Okeke are two guys that I'm looking at. Suggs' price tag is pretty good. I know he's been inconsistent from the floor, inconsistent shooting the ball, but 4,400 for a guy in this type of matchup. He could see 30-plus minutes in this one. I think I don't mind taking chances at him, even though his shooting percentage is just bad. I get that. He's shooting not under 31% from the field, but he does have that upside if some of those shots start falling. So I will take some chances on that. He is getting double-digit shot attempts in every game, pretty much. One game that he didn't. So that is good news to me. He just has to make a couple, and this is a defense that he can make a couple on. So I will take some shots there. And Okeke, I just got to see about his minutes. They're starting to create the 3 of the last 4 games he's played. He's had 20 or more minutes. That's not enough to bring back big value here, but we can see if that starts changing. Now he has 5 games under his belt. This will be his 6th game. Might be time for them to start ramping it up a little bit, but we shall see, because they still have Wagner playing there. They still have those 2 big towers there. We'll see what happens with Okeke. He's just more of a keep an eye on him. But Jalen Suggs is the one guy that I'll be taking chances on here, in hopes that some of those shots that he's been gunning start to fall.
Is that Dunkin's new holiday blend coffee?
Sure is, because sometimes the holidays just call for Dunkin'.
What's in it? A spark of holiday spirit?
A cup full of holiday cheer?
Your very own holiday shopper?
Actually, all that, and notes of molasses and dried fruit. Just the warming blend I need for that holiday hustle.
Sit through the holidays with the $2 medium holiday blend coffee at Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
And RJ Hampton's another guy to keep an eye on at 3,200. I've been playing pretty well, but not a guy that I'll build around. All right, the other game. We have another game at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. 1 of 3. That is the Toronto Raptors traveling to Boston to take on the Celtics. We have a 212 game total, and the Celtics are 2-point home favorites. On the injury report, we have Kem Burke is ruled out for this one. They list him as doubtful on the official injury report, but they already said he's going to miss the next 2 games. Then we have Yuta Watanabe out. And then on the Celtics side of the ball, we have Jaylen Brown is out, and Payton Pritchard is available now. We'll start with the Raptors. One of the best defensive teams in the league to start the year. They're giving up the fourth least amount of points. Their pace is playing slow, and all the metrics are saying that this team is close to where they were a couple years ago on the defensive side of the ball, if not slightly better. They're playing fantastic basketball right now on that side, and they just got Siakam back last game. Siakam might not play on the back-to-back that they have tomorrow, so maybe he gets a full complement of minutes here, which will be nice for owners. 8,300 though, it's a tough pill to swallow in his second game back. He only played 25 in that first one. They did lose by 13, so they didn't have to rush him. But if he's not even going to get 35 minutes, 8,300 on a slate like this, even against a defensive team that is bottom 6 in the league, it's something that I can't swallow there. I would rather just go to a Van Vliet or an OG. Even Scotty Barnes at 6'9" has been really solid. I think those three guys are definitely in play if you want to take some. Probably more OG and Barnes. Van Vliet's going to see a ton of Marcus Smart, though. He's been decent in that matchup historically. And then you got Gary Trent Jr., 5,600. That's a guy who's been playing a lot better lately. We've been seeing he still played 36 minutes in that last game. That's the kind of run that we're hoping for if we're going to play him, even when Siakam is back. We also saw Siakam start at the 5, so they could slide him and keep everybody in there. That's something to keep an eye on. That hurts Boucher and Precious's value, even though Burke is out. Siakam's starting at the 5 again. That's something to think about, but he might not because we know the Celtics play big. So I'm expecting one of Precious or Boucher to start. Likely Precious. Boucher is just still in the doghouse. But if we get the confirmation that one of them is going to start, which I would definitely expect, I think you can take your GPP chances on both of them. We know the type of upside Boucher has, and in this matchup against two center lineup pretty much, he's probably going to have 15 minutes in this one. And Precious should start and get 25 or so minutes. He played 27 in the last one, even though he came off the bench. It's going to be two solid price tags. 4,100 for Precious, 36 for Boucher. Precious has a safer floor. Boucher has the higher upside. I will take chances on both of them in different lineups. More so Precious because we know that he's not in the doghouse. He has a safer role, and his production has been steady. But Boucher is that type of guy that could win a tournament if he gets the type of minutes that he could potentially see in a matchup like this. On the other side of the ball, we have no Jaylen Brown, so we have a lot of Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum hasn't, outside of last game, he's been playing down. 10 points, 14 points, 20 points outside in the last 3 before the last game. Not the greatest shooting overall. Something is wrong. He's only shooting 39, under 40% from the field on the year, 32% from 3. He's only shooting 75% from the free throw line, too. Just something is off with them. And without Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart freaked out that both these guys don't want to pass the ball. They know that they're going to take all the shots, but they don't want to pass the ball. At 10-4 on a slate like this against this defense, I'm going to have to pass on Tatum. Pretty much not going to play a ton of these guys. It's just a tough matchup, and they're not playing great to begin with. Al Horford is a little priced up, even though he's pretty much the second option now. But I'm going to leave most of the Celtics alone until they show me that they can play better together. It's just not been a fun start to the season for them. Marcus Smart at 5,400 would be one of the few guys that I take because he has a ton of minutes in his belt. He's averaging a whopping 35 per game this year. At 5,400, that's a pill I can swallow, but I don't feel comfortable about it. Won't feel comfortable about most of these guys. Rob Williams would like to play him. He kind of hasn't been as good. The first couple games of the season, he was playing great. Then it kind of dwindled down a little bit. But again, 5,800 is a price tag I can swallow. Don't feel super comfortable about it, but I can swallow it in hopes that he brings back one of those really good rebounding and defensive type of games. But I'm not going to have too much exposure to the Celtics. All right, jumping on over to the next game at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We have the Detroit Pistons taking on the Houston Rockets in a battle of the low seed games. On the over-under, we have a 211 game total with the Rockets. How many times are you going to say this year? But the Rockets as 2-point home favorites. Probably won't say that too many times. And on the injury report, we actually don't have any for either team at the moment. They both look to be fully healthy. They didn't submit one. Killian Hayes should be questionable for this one. Kevin Porter Jr. should be questionable for this one. But on the official injury report, they don't have one. Take that as you will, but those two guys are questionable heading into this. We'll start with the Pistons side of the ball. Good matchup all around. Jeremy Grant at 7,200. It's a price tag I can pay for. I've been talking about a lot of other people. He played a whopping 38 and 39 minutes in the last two. He only put up 5 points on 0 of 9 shooting against Brooklyn in that last game. I can expect a bounce back here. Maybe not the 43-point explosion he did before that, but I think he's going to hit value here. It's a good matchup. Good matchup for him. And at 7,200 is not a price tag we need to totally shy away from here. Olynyk, going back to Houston where he finished off last season at 5,800. I think that's another good price tag. He's been splitting the minutes with Isaiah Stewart, only playing 22 on the season, but 5,800 in this type of matchup is pretty solid for him. I do prefer Cade Cunningham, $200 lower, now that he's starting to get some confidence, now that he's starting to get some games under his belt. He played over 30 minutes in the last 2 games, took 17 shots each in the last 2 games. Though he only made 10 of those 34 shots, that's the type of volume that we want. That's the type of volume that we can expect for Cade going forward. And at 5,200, once those shots start to fall, that price tag is going to rise. It's still very, very cheap. He would be my preferred option over Olynyk, even though I think Olynyk is pretty solid. Isaiah Stewart, if he was playing 30 minutes a night, would like him, but him splitting, just not enough time. It's sort of like last year. But those two guys, Cunningham and Grant, are the two guys that I'm mainly looking at on this side of the ball. I think the price tags are nice to get. 2 mid-salary price tags, one on the higher end, one on the lower end, that we can attack and get some good stuff out of here. On the other side of the ball, we have the Rockets. Kevin Porter Jr.'s availability is something, obviously, we need to keep an eye on. If he doesn't play, that means some shaking and moving out there. Eric Gordon's going to get more ball handling responsibility. Jayshawn Tate's going to be a point forward. More of the offense is probably going to be revolved around Christian Wood making plays. Jalen Green could start at point guard. A lot of options here. We could see Armani Brooks start at point guard or DJ Augustine. It's got a lot of shaking and moving out here. Kevin Porter has been playing through his injury, so I'm expecting him to go. But if he doesn't, changes a lot of things on this team. If he does, I think Eric Gordon at 4,500 is a guy I'm looking at. He's been taking a lot of shots and playing near 30 minutes. I know he's not the best of names. He's an older vet on this young team. Probably going to be traded at some point, but they're building his trade value. They're building Tice's trade value. 4,500 in a matchup like this, that's where I'll take some chances on him. And I mentioned Jalen Green, Jayshawn Tate. I would prefer them more if Kevin Porter Jr. doesn't play. But even if he does, I think they're both in play here in this type of matchup against a Detroit team that, while they don't play at the fastest pace, they're not like their defense is middle of the pack. Most of their statistic is middle of the pack, and they have been prone to give up a ton of points. And Houston plays at the second fastest pace in the league, so there will be extra possessions, even though Detroit wants to slow the ball down. Right, and that's pretty much it there. Christian Wood you can take a look at, but I just don't like the $9,200 price tag. If he was still at 8.4, 8.5, I would take a very hard look at him, but 9.2 on a slate that has 13 games, I'm going to pass on that one. All right, jumping on over to the last game at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We have a good one here with the Milwaukee Bucks traveling to New York to take on the Knicks. On the spread, we have a 218 game total, and the Knicks are 1.5 point home favorites. We have the Bucks playing on the back end of a back-to-back. So we'll see. They don't have an injury report as of yet. I would expect Chris Middleton, DiVincenzo, and Brook Lopez to sit once again, but that is not a given. On the Knicks side of the ball, we have Nerlens Noel, who left in the last game. He's questionable. Mitchell Robinson, who did not play in the last game, is questionable. We'll start with the Bucks. Had a very nice win last night against an undermanned Sixer squad, won by 9 points. But we can still chalk what we're going to see here. Bobby Portis at 5'5". His price tag jumped up only $100 from last night. Again, well in play. Last 2 games, he finally had his minutes not so restricted since he came back, and he's topped 44 points in both of those games. If he's okay to play on a back-to-back and has no restrictions, I don't see how he's not going to top this value again, especially since we might have Taj Gibson start at center and Jericho Sims as the backup if Nerlens Noel and Mitch Rob aren't playing. While Mitch Rob hasn't played great, it's still a bump in value there. Drew Holiday hasn't played up to the Drew Holiday that I've been expecting lately. But at 6,500, he's still another guy that you can attack. He's only shot 10 of 30 from the field in his last 2 games since hitting that 30-minute mark after that first game that he came back from. And he's still putting up at an average of over 30 fantasy points a game. So there's still a lot to be had there. He's only shooting 30% in those 2 games, and he's averaging 30 fantasy points. So a fantasy point per minute there on bad shooting. There's still meat left on the bone here, even in a tough matchup. I just think that price tag, eventually, when he rounds into form, is going to be nice. And Grayson Allen at 5,100. This guy's just been on fire. All he's doing is he's gunning threes, but they're going in. He is shooting over 41% from three-point land this year, averaging 15.5 points per game. The last 3 games alone, 22, 19, and 25 points. Then a dud before that, and before that, an 18-point game. He's grabbing some rebounds, stealing a lot of balls, chipping in a little bit of assists. 3 straight games with over 32 fantasy points. He's on a mini heater, and that streak started against the Knicks, where he had his highest fantasy point total on the year. So 5,100, another price tag that we can look at Grayson Allen for. I've just been playing really, really well. Can take a look at Giannis. I skipped over him because he's obvious, but we have some other talent here in a different matchup. We know Giannis is still playing a little banged up, and it's on the back end of a back-to-back. And at the whopping price of 12.3, I'm going to have a less exposure to him than other people might. On the Knicks side of the ball, we see we have some things to look at the front court. One guy to look at, not in the front court, I'm looking at RJ Barrett a little bit. He put up 33 fantasy points against this Milwaukee Bucks team about a week ago, about 5 days ago. And he only shot 8 of 21 from the field. But those 21 shots marked the most shots that he's taken on the season. So that is definitely noteworthy to me. Again, he only made 8 of them, 2 of 7 from 3. But 21 shots, the most he's taken on the season, is something I'm looking at. And while it was only 33 points, say he hit 2 more of those shots, he hits value there nicely. He already hit it, but he beats value nicely there. So RJ Barrett is a guy that I'm looking at. I know a lot of Randall exposure. He is 10-3. That is a hefty price tag. He put up 58.5 fantasy points against these guys. Again, 5 days ago with 32 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. Can look to him again, but we'll see exactly what happens. And I would like him even more if Noel or Mitch Rob didn't play. He's going to get more center minutes probably as the lone backup center. So I would get more Randall exposure if we know that they're not going to play. Speaking of knowing if they're not going to play, Taj Gibson at the bare minimum 3K is a guy we can definitely look at. He played 31 minutes in the last one without Mitch Roth and with Noel leaving. I would expect that to be his baseline, and he brought back 22.5 fantasy points. He only takes 4 shots. We know that. We know he's just going to pitch in around the boards, get some defensive numbers, pitch in tiny bit of points, but at 3K, the bare minimum, if he's going to be the starting center getting 30-plus minutes here, gotta take a look at him. Obi Toppin would be another guy. He should play more minutes in this one, but he only played 9 in the last one, which was very odd to me. I could expect him to play a little bit more here if both those guys are out. We know his penchant for scoring, even in limited minutes. Another guy you can take a chance on if you want to go against the grain of the Taj Gibson likely chalk. All right, we'll jump on over to the first games that start at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is the Dallas Mavericks traveling to Chicago to take on the Bulls. We have a 214 game total. The Bulls are 3-point home favorites. On the injury report, we have Maxi Kleber as out for the Mavs, and the Bulls have Zach LaVine as available, and then we have Kobe White and Patrick Williams as out. Start with the Mavs side of the ball. That's a tough one. The Bulls have currently a top 5 defense in the league. They're playing in a bottom 10 pace in the league. And they're playing just really good team basketball. Not a team that you totally want to attack. Luka, always in play, obviously, because of who he is, what he does. But this necessarily might not be a ceiling game at 11-4. If you're looking for cash and you just want a safer play, obviously he's a guy who can just put up 50. But ceiling game, this isn't one of the ones that I would expect it. Can he do it? Obviously, he's Luka, but going to shy away there for the most part. Probably not going to have a ton of exposure to this team in general. I still think Porzingis' price tag is a little low, but he's not even hitting 30 minutes. So until that happens, even though he can bring back 35, 40 fantasy points in under 30, he's a guy I'm just going to leave alone here. Dorian Finney-Smith is a cheap option that I don't mind looking at, but he doesn't have the upside there. For the most part, it's the 2 big guys that get all the usage here. Tim Hardaway Jr. is another guy who gets the third most usage, but he hasn't been taking the shots in the last 2 games. I'm not going to have much exposure to the Mavs in general. And then I'm going to jump on over to the other side of the ball. That is the Chicago Bulls, playing fantastic basketball right now. The Mavs also given up the 10th least amount of points in the league, and they are playing at a pace that is in the bottom 5 of the league. So another team that's just playing it slow. While there's so much fantasy names here, so many fantasy names, so much fantasy goodness, probably going to have less exposure again than most other teams. I think Vooch makes the most sense because of the matchup. The Mavs, we know, are susceptible to getting beat by centers, especially with Kleber out and them starting Powell, who's not been great, and then their backups, Cauley Stein, Moses Brown, Boban, who doesn't play. Moses Brown doesn't play either, but not the greatest. They're susceptible to giving up a ton of points. So I don't mind looking at Vooch, even though his price tag is 8.8. I think LaVine is another guy. He's been scoring the basketball just phenomenally this year at 26 points per game, even though they made all of these additions. Still scoring, still getting nearly 6 rebounds and over 4 assists a game. He's averaging 41 fantasy points. Literally, look at his numbers. The last 5 games: 40, 42, 40, 47, 41. You want to hit value, even in the matchup, whatever you want to expect, even with all these people around him. He's hitting value. So while the upside isn't there for like a 55, 60 point game for the most part, the dude's just crushing value every time and hitting it. So he is super safe, and I can go there more confidently. Then the other guys, if you want to take a shot, Caruso's playing a ton of minutes, 4,300. Derek Jones Jr., Javonte Green, Ayo Dosunmu. They're all getting these minutes, and it's like a pick this game type of thing with whoever's going to pop off on this one. I think Caruso is the safest of the group for obvious reasons. His role is defined. He gets all these minutes, and they don't mind playing smaller. So, but the other three guys, if you want to take a shot at them, by all means, they are in play. I would rank them Green, Ayo, and then Derek Jones Jr. in that order from those three. But they're all worthy of a shot in a GPP if you want to take a chance on somebody who's super cheap and might not have as much exposure as a possible Taj Gibson or some of these other guys. All right, let's jump on over to the next game at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Charlotte Hornets traveling to Memphis to take on the Grizzlies in what is the highest scoring total of the night at 226.5, and the Grizzlies are 4-point home favorites. On the injury report, we have PJ Washington is out for the Hornets. On the Grizzlies, we have Dylan Brooks, Zaire Williams as questionable, Ves Pons, Killian Tilly as out. 2-4, as they call him, might be back, and Dylan Brooks, but we'll start with the Hornets on this side of the ball. This is going to be, even if you didn't look at the total, this is the game that people are going to attack. The Grizzlies and the Hornets are giving up. They are literally bottom two in the league in points given up. Hornets as a whopping near 4.5 more points given up, but these two teams are giving up the most points in the league right now. And it's a big difference from the rest of the league for the most part. Memphis is only playing at mid-tier pace, while Charlotte is playing at one of the league's fastest paces. It's going to be a fast game. It's going to be a lot of scoring, a lot of turnovers, a lot of fantasy goodness here. So most of these people are in play. Plumlee wasn't to me, but with PJ Washington out, they'll probably play him. They'll have to play him again 30 minutes unless they go real small with like a Bridges, Oubre, Hayward type of front court. But Miles Bridges in this matchup looks real good at 8-1. Gordon Hayward at 6'8". LaMelo Ball at 10. I don't want to spend that 10, but he can easily beat that. But that's a price tag that I'm going to live to fight another day on and attack some of his teammates. Miles Bridges, 81. Yes, it's still high, but this dude's been on fire this year, and this is just a fantastic matchup. Terry Rozier at 6'3". I prefer Gordon Hayward over him, but he's quietly taken 22 shots in the last two games each. So that's 44 shots in 2 games. He's only hit 19 of them, which is solid, but he doesn't do enough outside of shots if he's taking them to like it. And Gordon Hayward's more well-rounded game is only $500 more. I will take that. Yeah, I think Oubre is another guy you can look at, 4,200. Most of this team you can look at. He's not playing as many minutes as he did quite early in the year, but they still don't have PJ Washington, so can take a look at him there. But I think Bridges, Hayward, Plumlee are the three that I like the most on this side of the ball. And I'm going to jump on over to Memphis, and again, you can like a lot of these guys. Ja has been on fire to start the year, 9,900. Probably not going to play him as much. This I need to know about Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks is in here at 7,100. Obviously, I'm not going to play him, but that just messes a little bit of the other rotation. Is he going to start? Is he going to come off the bench? I think he could be a really solid 6-man. But who does he bump if he starts? Does he bump Melton, or does he bump Bane and have Bane run the second unit as the primary option over there? And they have a very solid Melton, Brook, wing defensive rotation. See exactly what happens there. But Jaren Jackson Jr. at 6'1", I don't think he's going to be affected by any of the news. And with the news that he's going to be playing more center, which obviously is great for his fantasy value, at 6,100 in this matchup, yes, please play some center. I think that's a smash spot if he does get 10 to 12 minutes at center here. Melton and Bane, I really like them. I just want to wait on Dylan Brooks because he will We will need to see what happens if Dylan Brooks plays. But both those guys in this type of matchup, especially Bane, who shoots and who's a better shooter, Melton is streaky, is someone we can target at that mid-tier price. Kyle Anderson, 4,400. The guy keeps finding himself in the lineup. He's been really rock solid as a sixth man. His minutes kind of fluctuate, but his role is the same. And with the news that Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to play more center and Jenkins likes him at center, that means more minutes for Kyle Anderson at the 4, even at the 3. Hopefully Dylan Brooks doesn't play his minute because that affects him as well. But that is music to Kyle Anderson people's ears, hearing that Jenkins likes Jackson at the 5. That hurts Steven Adams, but helps Kyle Anderson, and it also helps Brandon Clark, who had himself a really good game. I don't think I'm going to chase that Brandon Clark game, but this is a matchup that if you were going to chase it, it's one that's going to be fun. But I do think Kyle Anderson, much safer. It is an extra $1,100. Melton Bane, pretty solid if Brooks doesn't play. And Jaren Jackson is a guy that we can play regardless here. All right. Before I jump on over to the next game, I want to let you guys know that the NBA is back, and at DraftKings Sportsbook, an authorized sports betting partner of the NBA, the key to victory is a strong starting 5. New customers can bet just $5 on any NBA team to win their game, and if they do, you win $200 in free bets. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also get their skin in the game with new same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code NBA today. Bet just $5 on any NBA team to win their game, and if they do, you win $200 in free bets. So if they win, you win with promo code NBA today this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an authorized sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. Before I jump on the next one, I got to take a sip of water. That felt good. All right. We have the last game at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the Oklahoma City Thunder at the New Orleans Pelicans. We have a 2-11 game total, which is tied for the lowest on the night. And the Pelicans are 4.5-point home favorites. Sounds like Vegas is saying that Brandon Ingram is going to play, though him and Herbert Jones are questionable, and Zion Williamson and Dalton Holmes are out. But 4.5-point home favorite. Yeah, it is the Thunder, but Pelicans have been playing bad. I just think Vegas is trying to say Ingram's playing, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. Oklahoma City Thunder don't have anyone on the roster that is out for this one, or questionable, or probable. But we'll jump on over to the Thunder since they are the away team. Very good matchup for Shy. If you want to pay a little bit down for a number one option, this is a guy you can look at. We were looking at Ja, who's nearly $1,000 more. We're looking at LaMelo, who's $1,100 more. Shy's been playing really well, over 45 fantasy points. 2 games before this, over 40 in the last 3, over 40 in 4 of the last 5 games. So, and then before that, even more. He's been playing really, really, really well. And this is a matchup that against one of the worst teams in the league, surprisingly, a team giving up over 112 points per game, playing at a pretty fast pace, and just not been that good overall, especially without Ingram, without Zion, without their stud guys. We can look at Shy here, and if you don't want to pay up for Shy, Josh Giddey, $6,500. We know his role. It's a price tag that's slightly high for what he's been bringing back, but he can beat this in this matchup. There's no opposing threat on the other side of the ball that I have to really worry about here for Josh Giddey to do his well-rounded game here. Darius Bazley, $4,800. Pretty solid matchup. Vegas is hinting that Ingram is playing, but it helps if he doesn't. That's a good matchup for Bazley. He's a lot bigger than who's likely going to start at power forward. It could be Josh Hart, and everybody pushes down. But we'll see. But basically at 4,800 is a solid price tag. Outside of that, it's like a guessing game on who's going to start at center and who's going to actually play a lot at center. Last game we saw James Robinson-Earl start at center, and it was Muscala who went off. Game before that, we saw Derek Favors have a double-double in 28 minutes. And it just keeps switching on and off between these guys on who's getting the lion's share of minutes, who's showing up this one. We got rid of Isaiah Roby. They put him in the G League. But there's still a cluster of three guys at center. And Pokemon could always play center. I mean, he's 7 feet tall. And Darius Baisley can play center too. We know they're not. His best performance a couple years ago when he was a rookie was at center. So a lot to think about. But I think Giddey, Baisley, and Shai are the safest options on the team that we can look at. And everybody else is kind of finding out where they fit in after that. On the other side of the ball, Ingram is the big news. Is he in? Is he out? I don't know. Again, Vegas has these guys as 4.5-point home favorites. They are home, so that always leads the spread to the home team, but they just aren't good without them. So very hard to see 4.5-point if Ingram was out. That said, J-Val, with or without Ingram, hopefully without. If it's without Ingram, that's a solid play there. It is a hefty price tag, so I'm not going to have a lot of exposure, but he just is the number one option on the team. Without Ingram, Graham, Walker, and especially Hart all become options. With Ingram, a little bit less, though the Thunder aren't the greatest of teams. They're quietly in the top half in the league of points given up, and they're quietly they're playing a little bit fast, but they're middle of the pack in points given up, pace, and defensive metrics. So it's not like it's a smash spot when we do see the Thunder, especially when the Pelicans just have people in and out of their lineup all the time and are not playing in sync whatsoever. So even if Ingram plays, I think Josh Hart would make a little bit of sense here at 5-2, but it just dings all those guys just enough to where there's 13 games on the slate. Don't have to love it there. And Herbert Jones might play also. He's questionable. That's another guy who's going to take some minutes and muddy up that situation. Though he doesn't take a ton of shots, he takes enough, and he finds himself on the court enough when he was playing that muddies all that up. And I don't want to really invest in too much there. And Ingram in his first game back with a hamstring injury at 87 on a slate like this, I'll leave that alone as well. All right, I'm going to jump on over to the first game and the only game that starts at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. We have the Sacramento Kings traveling to San Antonio to take on the Spurs. We have a 222.5 game total, and the Spurs are 1.5-point home favorites. On the injury report, we have Tyrese Halliburton, Terrence Davis, both questionable for the Kings. The Spurs have Zach Collins, Jakob Poeltl, both out. Keita Bates-Diop as questionable. Start with the Kings. Halliburton questionable is some big news here. If he doesn't play, we could see Davion Mitchell jump into the starting lineup. We could see Buddy Hield, but I think they like Buddy as that sixth man to carry the bench and then obviously play with the starters as well. So I think Davion might draw the start there. And De'Aaron Fox would have more ball handling responsibilities. He would play on ball a lot more, and we might be able to see the De'Aaron Fox that we were expecting, more of the De'Aaron Fox that we were expecting. So with that said, Richaun Holmes at 6'9", in a matchup that doesn't feature Poeltl and sees a lot more of Drew Eubanks and Thad Young, I like that. The Spurs, we know, play at a fast pace. Their defense hasn't been great. And especially without their best defender, it hasn't been as great. But they play at one of the league's highest paces, the Spurs. The Kings play fairly fast as well. Top 10 in pace as well. I think Richaun Holmes will find himself in a very good spot at 6,900, and I like that price tag. Buddy Hield at 6,300. Just mentioned I would expect him to come off the bench still and start Mitchell, but that doesn't mean there's not extra minutes, extra ball handling duties, extra shots, extra usage, all of that extra stuff when Haliburton is not on the court that Buddy Hield has been playing great with. We saw last year when Haliburton missed some time, Buddy Hield picked up his game, and I expect that to happen again in an exploitable matchup at 6,300, like that price tag. And Davion Mitchell, I just mentioned before. Terrence Davis doesn't play much, but that's a couple extra minutes on the wings for Mitchell. And if Haliburton also doesn't play, that's a lot of extra minutes there, and he might get the start here at 4,600. Really like that. If Haliburton does play, I'm going to stay mainly at Holmes, and I'll still take a chance at Buddy Hield and Mitchell, but it just won't be the upside that I'm hoping for. All right, on the other side of the ball, we have the Spurs. We see DeJounte Murray all the way at 9,700, and rightfully so. The guy has been fantastic. And we see Derek White dropping 6,400. Derek White has been in a slump, but I'm going to take a chance on him. 6,400 is a solid price tag. We know shooting guards against the Kings historically in the last handful of years, especially since Luke has been there, have gotten crushed. So this is a potential get-right game for him. Obviously, I like Murray, his well-rounded game a little bit better this year, but that price tag is high. So I will go with Derek White to bounce back in this one. And then in the front court, I'm looking at Eubanks, Thad Young. Both these guys should get a lot of minutes. There's no Jakob Poeltl. Drew Eubanks has been starting, so we can look at him at 4,600. But Thad Young has a very, very big role on this team right now. And at 5,800, we know what he's capable of is a well-rounded game, and he can beat that in a likely very fast matchup between two teams in the top 10 in pace, and two teams not playing the greatest of defense. So I like them there. Those two guys I'll be taking chances at. Not so much Vassell or Walker. I think we do have other value on here that we can look at, that we don't have to force that in there. All right, the first game at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Indiana Pacers traveling to Denver to take on the Nuggets. On the over-under, we have a 213 game total, and the Pacers are 2-point road favorites. We have, on the injury report, Malcolm Brogdon as questionable, Isaiah Jackson as out, TJ Warren as out. The Nuggets have the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic, is suspended for this one. We have Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, and Vlatko Kinkar all out, and Monte Morris as probable. We'll start with the Pacers. The Nuggets have been giving up the least amount of points in the NBA to start the year. The only team in the league not averaging over 100 points a game. The second is 101.5 at the Warriors. That's been a very, very good defense for them. They're playing at one of the league's slowest paces, bottom 5. Pacers are in the middle of the pack there, but they're also giving up a lot of points. They're bottom 10 in the league in points given up here. But there's no Jokic, so this entire matchup changes. And we're seeing the Pacers as road favorites in Denver. So that tells all you need to tell there. I expect Malcolm Brogdon to play in this one. They have him listed as questionable, but they already announced that he's expected to play. And that's a pretty solid price tag at $7,500 for him. I like that. I like Miles Turner at 6'9", knowing that there's not going to be a Jokic on the other side of the ball. That also helps Sabonis. But I've been going back to Sabonis, and he just hasn't been great the last 3. I can see a bounce back in this one, so I don't mind it. But at 10-2, I don't know why his price tag is continually going up, even though he's not playing great. It was very hard to fathom his price tag in the 9-3 and 9-4 in the last 2 games. And then all of a sudden now it's 10-2. He didn't even top 40 points in either of those games, so not exactly sure why his price tag jumped into the 10K range. They're expecting a blow up because Jokic is not here, and I can see that. So I don't fault people for playing it. I just don't like when people get those price bumps, and out of nowhere, even though their play has been off. Really irks me. But Malcolm Brogdon, if he's ready for a full complement of minutes, I know this is the first game of a back-to-back for the Pacers, so he might not play a full complement of minutes, or he could and then just miss tomorrow. So that's something to think about as well. But Miles Turner at that 6'9" with no Jokic, likely going to be J. Michael Green, Jeff Green, maybe some Bol. None of those guys are intimidating. Big Miles Turner can have himself a very big game as well if you can't spend up for Sabonis. I'm going to stick to those guys pretty much. The high mid-tier, low mid-tier price tags there for them. Chris Durte at 5,200 is a guy you can take if you think this game's going to get out of hand, but Pacers have been so bad lately, even in a matchup without all their best players. Don't know if it will get out of hand here. And then I'll jump on over to Denver, who they don't have their top three options from last year. Jokic, Murray, Porter, all out. We can look right at Will Barton at 6,300. We can look right at Aaron Gordon and Monte Morris at 52 and 44 respectively. They're going to have to carry this team just to keep it competitive. And the usage is off the charts. Look at all the numbers without their top three options. There are not many instances where Jokic, Murray, and Porter are all out for an entire game. So not a lot of data to back that up, but a lot of common sense points to Will Barton is the number one option. Monte Morris is probably number two. Aaron Gordon has freedom to do whatever he wants, like he did in his Orlando days, playing a little bit more of point Gordon over here. So I think those three guys are all in really good spots here, as long as they can keep this game competitive enough. Bones Highland at 3,300. They're going to need him to score here. So he's a guy you can take a chance on. I mentioned J. Michael Green earlier. We also have Jeff Green. I prefer J. Michael at 3,200. We know his fantasy game just translates a little bit more. Probably going to start at center. There's a lot of options on this Nuggets team without Jokic and Porter and joining Murray on the sideline. But I think Barton, Gordon, Morris make the most sense. And if you want to take a chance, J. Michael Green, he also makes a lot of sense. And Bones Highland is a guy you can take a chance on. They're going to need him to play and score here in this one. They're going to need some type of offense off that bench that is depleted. All right. And we have the next game, second game and last game at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Portland Trailblazers traveling to Phoenix to take on the Suns. We have a 221.5 game total with the Suns 5.5 point home favorites. We don't have an injury report yet for the Blazers, but on the Suns side of the ball, we have DeAndre Ayton, Dario Saric, both out, and Landry Shamet as doubtful. The Blazers have nobody on the injury report, but they are pretty much healthy too entering this one. While they didn't submit it officially, doesn't look like anyone's going to miss unless there's a surprise there. Though they did play last night, so we will see. All right. On the Blazers side of the ball, I'm not loving too much of it. I will take some chances at Norm Powell, 5,600. I think that's a solid price tag. Though I think there's a lot more of those price tags to go around in that range that I don't really want to take a chance on Powell. Covington, 4,300. Not terrible. He's been playing pretty solid lately. And it's just low enough to differ from the field there. But in general, it's a tough matchup, even without DeAndre Ayton in there. And I really don't want much to do with a struggling Lillard right now at 10-1. We just talked about Sabonis getting his price tag bumped up to 10-2. And even though I don't like that bump, I think he's a lot safer than Lillard in this one, who also got a $900 bump from the last game. So both of them getting bumps. I'll take Sabonis in the matchup that doesn't have Jokic or Porter or most of their team. And everybody else out here, the Suns are still one of the better defensive teams in the league. And McCollum, Nurkic has a plus spot here, but at 72, don't really love it. He hasn't been bringing great value back anyway. I just think the price tag is pretty solid. Not leaving much meat left on the bone for them. I'm going to pass it on over to the Suns side of the ball. no DeAndre Ayton. Frank Kaminsky's going to play a lion's share of the minutes with JaVale McGee. I think both of them can be in play at 5K and 4.2 respectively. Don't love them, but they're in play for me. Mikal Bridges at 5,100 is a guy I'm looking at. I think wings against the Blazers have been taking advantage of that matchup there. Blazers play fast. Blazers have been giving up a lot of points. Something that you can take a look at. Chris Paul, I love the matchup for him. Don't love the 9K price tag as much. Keeps rising and rising. But probably not going to have much exposure there too. But I do prefer him over Devin Booker, who's $800 more. Booker's been playing a little bit better than him lately, but the matchup for Chris Paul is just fantastic, and I love that. But outside, I'm mostly looking at Bridges and the two center options because also Shamet is out. But the two center options because Ayton is out here, and I think the value is to like there. Cam Johnson is a guy you can look at 3,200 as well. Without Shamet, should play a couple more minutes off the bench. Be the primary wing off the bench, not having to share it with Shamet there. All right, last two games of the night. The first one at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the Minnesota Timberwolves traveling to Golden State to take on the Warriors. We have a 220 game total, and the Warriors are 8-point home favorites. On the injury report, we don't have anybody for the Wolves, and the Warriors just have Klay Thompson and James Wiseman as out. I'll start with the Wolves. Towns at near 11K in this matchup. I shall pass. Anthony Edwards at 8K in this matchup. Like it. I think Edwards can beat it, but don't think I have to force it. I will likely pass. D'Angelo Russell just coming back from that injury in that last one. Played 41 minutes and dropped 30 actual points. This is a revenge game because he was traded from the Warriors to this very Minnesota team. But at 7-1, likely not going to have a ton of exposure to him. Pat Bev, 4,300. This is a guy that loves to play against Steph Curry. He started in the last one. A guy I'll take a chance on. I don't love him here, but he gets up for these big games. Even though I don't really like him, he does get up for these big games, and he's played pretty well when given the opportunity. Jaden McDaniels, he played 31 minutes in the last one. He was kind of on and off playing with his role, but he made some shots in the last one, and they kept him on for 31 minutes there. If he's going to see 25-plus minutes, he should be able to beat value most of the time. I know his game's been off to start this year, but only 3K at a starting position. Something that we can like there. We can take a chance on. But yeah, the Warriors they're one of the best defensive teams in the league, and they've been playing like that lately. They've been locking up opposing centers. They've been locking up wings. Russell probably has the best matchup against Curry here. And at 7-1, I'll take a chance or two, but it's not something that I can trust. He's outside of the last game. He's not been playing great to start the year, and it's more of a GPP play because he's just not safe. All right, on the Warriors side of the ball, Curry is now a whopping 11-7 after that game that he had in the last one, near triple-double, with a 50-point near triple-double. Just a monstrous game against Atlanta. 86 fantasy points. But I'm not going to go back to him in this one. I think Jordan Poole makes a lot of sense in this one at 6,300. He's also been playing really well, and we can't expect Curry to drop another 50 burger on us. And Jordan Poole still took 17 shots in that last game. Been taking double-digit shots in all of the last 5 games, with 13 being the lowest. Bringing back consistent 30 points at the minimum in the last 3 games. I think values to be had here in a nice matchup. Doesn't have much defensive attention when all of it's going to Steph Curry. Some of it's going to Wiggins, and Draymond Green has finding them for open looks. So I think Jordan Poole is my favorite play on this team, value-wise, point per dollar-wise. And then I'll look at Bielitsa. Otto Porter Jr. might not play. That's some minutes to go around there. And Bielitsa can play center, play power forward. And at 3,400, if he's going to see 6 more minutes in this one, you can take a look at it. We know he has a pretty solid fantasy game when he's getting the time on the floor. And Gary Payton Jr. at 3,300. His role's been pretty solid. He played 20 minutes or more in the last 2 games. He's still bringing back value, and his price tag actually dropped $100 since that last one. He's not taking a ton of shots, but he's doing a lot of other things, getting a lot of steals, pitching in on the rebounds, a couple assists. And if he takes 5 to 10 shots in this one, he'll bring back value at near minimum. So another guy that I'll take a look at here. All right, the last game of the night, we have the Miami Heat taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. Now we have a 215 game total, and the Heat are 3-point road favorites. On the injury report, it is an extensive one. We have for the Lakers, Trevor Ariza, Taylor Norton-Tucker, LeBron James, Kendrick Nunn, all out. Anthony Davis probable, but Austin Reeves and Rajon Rondo as questionable. On the Heat, we have Markieff Morris, Victor Oladipo, out. Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, questionable. Caleb Martin, Max Struss, probable. Big injury report for both these teams. We'll start with the Heat. We have Jimmy Butler at 9.6. I mean, he's in play, even if everybody plays. But obviously, if they don't play, him and Kyle Lowry are pretty much running this team. You're not going to have Tyler Hero, though he comes off the bench. He plays a lot with the starters, obviously. That's a lot of usage to go around. You're not going to have, if Bam Adebayo doesn't play, a lot of usage to go around. It's going to be the Butler and Kyle Lowry show. Dwayne Dedmon looks really enticing as well at 3,200 if there's no Adebayo. We already don't have Markieff Morris, so that's just a lot of front court minutes to go around. He might even see some time next to Bam. Don't think so, but could see that with this team thinned out. So it's things to look at. I don't mind putting Butler in a lineup and just hope that Hero and or Bam don't play. And if they do, still can bring back value here. And if they don't, you know that it's a very good spot. Kyle Lowry, 7,700. Like him in this one again. We might not have Bam or Hero. I would prefer if they don't play. Unlike Butler, don't really want to play him if those two guys are in. I'd rather play Tyler Hero over Lowry if he's planned. But there's a chance you can take in your lineups. Other people might not take them. And you might be able to separate from the pack there. Dedmon, obviously, if Bam doesn't play, he's likely to draw the start, 3,200. There's not many backups there on the team to throw in that front court. So very good value there. Just a lot to sort out when your Bam and Hero are both questionable for this one. All right. Jumping on over to the LA side of the ball. And we don't have LeBron. We know that. Westbrook, though he's been super inefficient in turning the ball over, last game he had a triple-double against Charlotte. Hasn't been playing the greatest. At 11-3, he jumped up 900. Probably going to sit him out here against this Heat squad. I would prefer Davis, but I'm probably not going to play either of them. Carmelo Anthony at 5,800. Can take a shot at him. With no LeBron, you know that his usage is going up and up and up, and he's never afraid to shoot the ball. Though this Heat squad is one of the best defenses in the league by any metric, it's still, there's no LeBron. There's a ton of usage to go around. Westbrook is not making many shots, and Melo is never the one to shy away from that. Outside of that, probably not much. Maybe some Dwight Howard at 3,500. But there's really not much to love in this matchup. It's going to be a tough matchup. And Westbrook and Davis have their prices sky high right now. All right, that does it for today's edition of the whopping 13-game slate for the 10th of November. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you again tomorrow. We'll have a smaller 3-game slate again for you for Thursday after this near every team in the league playing on Wednesday. But I believe Mike and Harris will be catching you guys tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning in. Peace.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.